Hello, community, and welcome to this week's Bible reading. I'm Pastor Kathleen, and this week we are finishing up our series, Built to Last. We've been looking at different rhythms that are helping us to develop a more resilient faith. Now, to be resilient means to be able to withstand or to recover quickly from difficult circumstances. And I know we've all found ourselves in difficult circumstances. This week, we are focusing on the rhythm of celebration and how that can help us to develop a more resilient faith. I know it's been in more recent years that I've really seen the importance of celebration, the spiritual practice of celebrating. And it's important because it's a way to often look back and see how God has been involved and the work that He's done, changes that have happened, ways that we've all grown. It's a way to remember and acknowledge God. So the practice of celebrating is really important. We have many ways that we mark events and celebrate in our culture. There's birthdays and there's weddings and anniversaries, there's graduations. And hopefully in the midst of all of those, we're also celebrating what God has done and what He's doing in people's lives. So today we're going to look at a passage in the book of Nehemiah related to celebrating and this rhythm of celebrating. Now, the book of Nehemiah and the book right before it, Ezra, were written describing when the Israelites returned from exile in Babylon. Ezra describes when the rebuilding of the temple. And Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah, describes the rebuilding of the wall around Jerusalem, because every city needed a wall, a secure wall to provide safety and to provide protection. And when the wall was completed, there was a big celebration. Celebrating is important to God, and we see it throughout Scripture. Now, one thing about this passage that I noticed, it's not very long, but it includes a lot of names. And one thing I know about me and names, if I was a teacher on the first day of school, I would not be very good at pronouncing all of those students' names. I know I would mess them up. And reading biblical names, it's a little hard to know exactly how to pronounce them. So the more confidently one can read them, hopefully, the better that sounds, and you all will just assume that's how they are pronounced. I'm not sure. I will do the best I can. But more than anything, as you listen to the names, remember that this is about the spiritual practice, the rhythm of celebrating. So listen to Nehemiah chapter 12, verses 40 through 43. The two choirs that gave thanks then took their places in the house of God. So did I, together with half the officials, as well as the priests. Eliakim, Messiah, Miniamin, Micaiah, Elione, Zechariah, and Hananiah with their trumpets, and also Messiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Uzi, Jehohanan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. The choirs sang under the direction of Jezrahiah. And on that day they offered great sacrifices, rejoicing because God had given them great joy. The women and children also rejoiced. The sound of rejoicing in Jerusalem could be heard far away. And if you hear a few extra noises around here as I'm outside, then that's just part of our experience as we focus on this rhythm of celebration. So again, all these names that are listed in this brief passage, and these are just the names of some of the priests and the choir director throughout the whole book of Nehemiah. So many names are given, all those people who were involved in the rebuilding of the wall. And these names aren't listed anywhere else in Scripture, and they're people that we won't know anything really about their stories, but they were involved in the building of the wall. They had a part to play in accomplishing something big and then celebrating what God had done. It's sort of like the movie credits. Like if you ever watch a movie all the way through and just the lists of all the different people involved, people that we probably don't know. They're not the big actors, but they all have a part to play in accomplishing that movie. And it just reminds me of God's kingdom and of our church, of all of the people that it takes to make things happen. Each of you have an important part that as you use your gifts and your talents and express your passions, the ways that you connect with people and reach out to people, especially these days when we're not face to face. It's so important, and I'm so thankful. And if for any reason you're engaging with this Bible reading today, or you have been and you don't feel connected, please reach out to one of us because we would love to help you get connected, especially during this time. We have all kinds of ways to do it, just a little different than face to face. So encourage you to consider that. But again, this practice of celebrating and the ways that God names people and how people are so important and involved in the practice of celebration. I also think of names and graduations because when someone graduates, their name is called, and it's a way to acknowledge their accomplishments, and there's family and friends that cheer them on and support them. And I know for so many graduates this year, especially our high school seniors recently, I know that all of the hopes and desires for what graduation would look like and the experiences, celebrations that they'd have, I know they're different. I know they're so different. There's been a lot of loss, and it's hard, and I don't want to diminish any of that. I also have seen really creative things done and ways that in the midst of these circumstances, people are celebrating graduates and supporting one another, and I think it's wonderful. And I heard of one young graduate who said they are so thankful to be a part of the amazing, different, and strong class of 2020. And to me, that sounded like resiliency, to be strong, part of a strong class. And I believe that the class of 2020, that if they're not already, they will through this be more resilient, and we celebrate that. So sometimes I think we're just too busy and we're moving on to the next thing and don't take time to celebrate. Sometimes maybe we're discouraged and we just don't want to give energy to celebrating. But celebrating is important. It's important to God. And if we look throughout Scripture, we'll see all of the different ways that celebrations took place, and especially the rebuilding of the temple, the rebuilding of the wall was just a time for people to just see what God had accomplished and how God had used them. And so I just want to encourage you to consider how you can engage in this rhythm of celebration and finding ways, even now, that you can mark things. And one thing about celebrations is something like a birthday. A birthday marks both the ending and a beginning, because we celebrate the end of a year, even as we come alongside someone and look forward to the year ahead. So celebrating is important as a way to mark events and to acknowledge God's involvement and to see what God is doing, and hopefully to bless someone with our hopes and dreams for what will continue to happen in their life. So I wonder, as you think about growing to be more resilient, how has that happened for you in this season? And what are some things that you can celebrate? How have you seen God's faithfulness? How can you express your gratitude, your joy, express thanks for ways that you've seen His faithfulness, His provision, His love, His care, His compassion? I hope you'll really consider this rhythm of celebration and how it can be a part of our lives. If you would like to get these Bible readings, devotionals sent to your email, you can sign up at findcommunity.com/Bible reading. Have a great day, and I hope you find some ways to celebrate.